Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2020 Ford Transit T250, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the etrailer.com Class 3 trailer hitch receiver. In my opinion, you really can't go wrong with this hitch. It kind of checks all the boxes for me. Not only is it going to look good, but it's going to be really heavy duty and can handle just about anything you throw at it. And that's exactly what you want on the back of your Transit, because these things are really versatile and can do pretty much anything that you want them to. So for those of you that plan on primarily using your Transit to do some towing, work-related stuff, things like that, the hitch is going to be able to handle that. Now, I would recommend picking up some trailer wiring. That way the lights on your trailer will match up with the lights on your Transit and you'll be safe and legal. Now, a big question we get asked all the time from Transit owners is in regards to towing trailers with electric brakes. That can easily be done. There's a really cool wiring kit available that's pretty much plug and play. It's already, for the most part, loomed and ran for you. It makes life really easy. And you can use that in conjunction with a brake controller to allow your Transit van to pull that trailer with brakes, not only safely, but legally as well. And a lot of times these vans too are also used to carry around a lot of people on adventures and go exploring, things of that nature. Well, whenever you have all the people inside, even though they're pretty big, all the seats take up all the space. You don't have a whole lot of room to put all your gear and extra cargo, things like that. You can put stuff up on the roof, but it's really high up and can be a little troublesome to get to. So I would recommend, if that's your case, getting a cargo carrier, which will work perfectly with the hitch. That way you can get to all your stuff real easily back here. You ain't got to worry about going up on the roof, and it'll make the ride inside more comfortable for all your passengers. Now, something I want to mention that a lot of people probably won't think about is if you do happen to want to use a bike rack back here, you're probably not going to be able to get into the back of the door, because whenever you go to open it up, that rack could be in the way and interfere. Well, there's a really cool solution available, and it's actually an adapter that comes in here and allows everything you have accessory-wise to swing way over to the side and give you a ton of space to get anything you might need in and out of the back of your Transit. Now, since this is a Class 3 hitch, it's going to have that 2" by 2" receiver tube opening, which is an extremely common size, and you'll find a ton of different things that'll work with it. It's also going to have a reinforced collar for extra strength, and I think it looks pretty good back here too. It's going to have that standard 5/8 pinhole. Now keep in mind, a pin and clip does not come included, but if you don't have one, you can find it here at eTrailer. It's going to have loop style safety chain openings, which aren't huge, but they do give us quite a bit of space to use just about any size hook that we might have. Now the hitch is going to have some pretty impressive weight capacities. As far as the maximum gross tongue weight rating goes, it's going to be 900 pounds. And that's going to be the amount of weight that's pushing down on the hitch. That's a really high number, and you should be able to use pretty much any accessory that you would want to. As far as the maximum gross trailer weight rating goes, it's going to be 6,000 pounds. And that's going to be the amount of weight that's pulling on the hitch. So that's the weight of your trailer plus anything that you might have on it. Now this can be used with the weight distribution system, which is a separate component, but if you are using that, the maximum gross trailer weight rating does increase to 8,000 pounds. But keep in mind, the tongue weight rating does remain the same at 900. Now, I do like to point out it's never a bad idea to check with your Transit's owner's manual to make sure it can pull that much weight safely. Now I'm going to give you a couple of measurements, and you're going to use these to help figure out which hitch-mounted accessories to get. From the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening, it's going to be 16 inches. So you're probably going to need to get a ball mount that's straight or that has a very slight rise. From the center of the hitch pinhole to the edge of the rear bumper, that's going to be about 5 inches. And you can use that measurement to help figure out that if any folding accessories you might have can be stored in the upright position without contacting the bumper. So at the end of the day, probably one of my favorite hitches available for the Transit. Not only is it going to look pretty good, but it's going to be really versatile, heavy duty, and pretty much handle anything you want to throw at it. And it's not going to be too bad to get installed either. There's a little bit of work involved, but everything's pretty easy to get to and straightforward. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and put the hitch on together now. To begin our install, we're going to be here at the back of our transit van, and on the passenger side, if you have a tow hook here like we do, we're going to need to remove it. So it's going to be held in place by 2 bolts, and so we use a 15mm socket to get those out. Now we can go over our attachment points and the hardware that we're going to use to secure our hitch. And from this point on, anything we do to this side, we're also going to do to the other side because it's set up the same way. But we're going to have 3 attachment points on each side. We're going to be using this hole, this one, and this one here. Let's start with this one back here. What we're going to do is take our pull wire. We're going to take the coiled end, put it through the hole, and push it up towards the front of our vehicle. It'll drop out of this opening here. And what we're going to do is take a spacer block, followed by a carriage bolt. We're going to thread that carriage bolt on and feed that hardware into the frame rail here and have it drop down. And just for reference, we're over here on the driver's side. Now these 2 holes are going to be a little bit different. What we're going to have to do is take the included self-tapping bolts and thread them up into the holes to actually create the threads, because the holes are just metal and don't have threads in them. Now I went ahead and already did this one just to try it out, make sure it works properly, which it does. But what you can do is take the self-tapping bolt, and it doesn't hurt to spray a little bit of lubricant on there. But you're going to take it and kind of push up on it, get it as straight as possible. And then we're just going to start to thread it in. It'll be a little bit tight because that bolt is cutting threads, so that's normal. But just go slow and take your time with it. And that'll make it easier in the long run. So you have that bolt nice and straight. Shouldn't give you any issues. We're going to thread that bolt practically in completely and then run it back out. And we're going to do the same procedure for our remaining attachment points here. Now once you have those threads created, it doesn't hurt to take a toothbrush like this and some penetrating oil and just kind of clean them out to get out any debris that may be left inside still. Now with an extra set of hands, we can grab our hitch, put it in place. We're going to take our pull wire and run it through the corresponding hole in the hitch. We can lift it up against our frame. And what we're going to do is remove that pull wire and take a flange nut. We're going to get that started hand tight on each side. That way the hitch will support itself while we work on the rest of our hardware. Now I do want to recommend, it's not a bad idea if you used each individual bolt to create those threads, just to reuse them in the same spot. Everything will go together just a little bit easier that way. And once we have all the hardware in place and hand tight, we can come back and snug it all down. Once everything is snug, we can come back with a torque wrench and tighten it down to the amount specified in our instructions. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the etrailer.com Class 3 trailer hitch receiver on our 2020 Ford Transit 250.